Charlie Munger changed my life. His ideas are directly responsible for me building my dream career as a writer, building a business that I love to turn up into, attracting over 250,000 followers, and making over 7 figures in under 3 years. There's a reason that Warren Buffett called him the smartest man he knew. He is the epitome of clear thinking. And so today I want to share the 7 ideas that have impacted my life the most. This is perfect if you're a writer, if you're an entrepreneur, and if you're looking to create something really cool. Every idea is immediately actionable, and the 7th one is the one that's impacted me most, so make sure you hang around, grab yourself a cup of tea, and let's dive in. Take a simple idea and take it seriously. Now, one thing with Munger is that in itself is a simple idea, but it is so damn important because it's very easy for us to overcomplicate success, especially online. I remember when I started, I was so overwhelmed because the best part about the internet is also the worst. There are so many bloody options that you end up feeling pulled apart by horses, being busy but going nowhere. You know, I was trying new strategies, trying new tactics. Every week I was changing, and anytime I would come across a guru with a new bit of advice, I would start doubting my own path. And then I just thought, right, let's just ignore the bullshit and think about what is actually true here. What is a simple idea that I can take seriously and what will get great results? And I actually came up with a 3-part approach that I haven't really spoken about, but it's what I've been executing relentlessly for 5 years. And if I'm honest, I'll probably execute it for the next 50. Let me tell you how it works. The first, as you might imagine, is to write every day. Writing is the most powerful skill in the world. It's a recognized thing for building authority because we've been following writers for thousands of years, but it also makes you think clearly. It helps you come up with new ideas. It helps you kind of be a more interesting person. The more you write, the more you change your life. And so if you just write daily, you have faith in that model that this is going to work out, I guarantee great things are going to happen, especially because the internet is built on a foundation of words. You're mastering a skill that's only going to pay dividends. Number 2 is to share personal stories, because the writer with the best brand wins, and the best brand is defined not by the number of followers, but by how much those followers like you. Personal stories mean that every single piece of content is an opportunity for them to get to know you more. And then the 3rd is to be damn useful, right? Because you can become an authority in any niche if you provide enough useful advice within it. One of my commitments is that I will solve a problem every day in public, right? I will share an idea that helps another person win. Gradually, you begin to build a reputation as someone that's like, oh, this guy is actually pretty damn useful. His writing is getting pretty damn good. And it's actually quite interesting because he's telling stories about himself as he does it. Those are my simple ideas that I take seriously. And really, I hope that you would too. But one of the risks to doing these sort of things is usually that we get influenced by other people. And this leads me to Charlie Munger's 2nd super important idea. Mimicking the herd invites regression to the mean. Now, this idea saved my writing career from burning down. At about year 2, I had studied copywriting and I had started getting really into the social media game. And I realized that it's a code that you can crack. You just have to follow the algorithm, jump on trends, using the same hooks as everyone else. And so I got really good at that. And I started getting loads and loads of followers. But what happened one day is that some writers that I really respected were laughing at me on the timeline. They're like, this guy is crap. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I was like, oh, you guys are just jealous, screw you. And then I went for a walk and I was like, maybe there's no smoke without fire. I came back and I looked at my timeline and tried to look at it through their eyes, and I couldn't believe what I saw. I sucked. I was generic, I was forgettable. I was writing stuff that's not inspiring, that didn't make me go, hell yeah. And so as a result, I was basically pleasing an algorithm instead of attracting an audience. And this is the trap that kills almost every single creator. The point in content is connection, okay? You can go viral, right? You can get tens of millions of views and no one will remember a fucking thing you said the day after. That's true, right? You go on a timeline now, how much stuff do you actually remember? That is because you are just sounding like everybody else. The point is to be unique, useful, and undeniable. And to do that, you have to avoid copying the crowd. And our monkey minds want us to do this because it's safe, right? To stay in the crowd means safety, to step outside of it means death. At least that's true when we were cavemen, but now staying safe is just another word for slowly dying. And if you take a look around, the crowd is fucking miserable, so we don't want to be like them anyway. The truth is, following society standards will trap you within them. Nobody can compete with you at being you. So whenever you find yourself following a path because everyone else is doing it, take a left turn, and I guarantee your writing is going to take off. And this leads me to the third point from Charlie Munger, where we talk about pursuing a path. He said a majority of life's errors is actually just forgetting what we were really trying to achieve. This is another way for saying don't lose sight of what's important, right? And it sounds simple, but it's incredibly hard to do. So for example, once I quit dentistry to be a writer because I wanted a career where I felt like I was making a really good impact at scale, where I was being creative and where I had a lot of freedom. And then I started getting paid, okay? And there's a concept I call incentive drag, where incentives will slowly pull you away from what you were trying to achieve. And then before you know it, you look around, you're like, how the hell did I get here? That's happened to me multiple times in my career. From the writing side, there was a point where I had a diary full of clients. I had insomnia because I was working so much. It was a lot of fun, but I was like, this wasn't the point. The point was to master the craft of writing. And so if you really want to get something in life, you have to set this vision and you have to be relentless in the execution of it. The way I like to do this is to work in 30 and 90-day sprints, because at the end of each month, if you just stop and go, are we on the path? What went well? What didn't? What are we going to do different next time? It's like a constant correct course to make sure you're heading in the right direction. One of the illusions is that you think it's just going to be a linear path, but it's more like a game of pinball as you're going through. The mistake is just not noticing that you're going left turn the entire way, and you end up somewhere completely different that wasn't aligned for you. And speaking of vision, by the way, you're watching this video, which tells me that your vision is that you really want to be a writer. I created a guide called the 5 Pillars of Magnetic Writing, which shows you the perfect stuff to post to attract the highest quality audience. It takes 5 minutes to read. It will solve all of your content problems and it will make your audience love your ideas. It's free. You can get it down in the link below. And for now, let's move on to our next idea. And that is, knowing what you don't know is more important than being brilliant. Online, everyone is trying to sound smart. And when you try to sound smart, you're actually being incredibly stupid because you're limiting yourself in what you learn. If you can just be humble enough to be like, I don't know shit, it triggers your curiosity because you become a learning machine. And that is the key to building a great brand online. You want to become a sponge of information. The way you do this is that you admit that you know nothing. Because when you admit you know nothing, you remove ego from the equation, which keeps you in this beginner's mindset, which keeps you super damn curious. And so your information that you're projecting to your audience will always be interesting too. And so the risk you need to look out for is when you start thinking that you know it all. Because what's going to happen is your brand starts to get very superficial. You know, you're just saying the same thing. Like, oh, I don't need to explore that. And then newer brands will come in and they'll start adding different layers of knowledge to their context and they'll start stealing attention away from you. I see this happen all the time with brands that think that they've got too big, but they're too important. And that's great news for someone like you if you are incredibly curious and become a learning machine. And this leads me to point number 5, which is so damn important if you want to build an incredible business or just an incredible life in general. To get what you want, you have to deserve what you want. Now, Naval Ravikant once said that the world is an efficient place. And what he meant by that was, if you do good work, if you work hard enough, okay, if you're willing to keep persisting through pain and through failure, you will eventually get what you want. And what's important here is that you cannot control the results, but you can always control your effort. A lot of people, they post online and they magically think that attention is going to turn into money, but it just doesn't work like that. It's such a goddamn competitive environment. But if you constantly put in the reps, if you're constantly trying to improve the way you communicate, if you're constantly learning new things, building new offers, looking for ways to serve your audience better than everyone else, you will eventually get what you deserve, okay? There's a window where you kind of have to prove it to yourself first, and then you get to prove it to the world. Most people think they get to skip that first part, all right? But to deserve success, you have to go through the pain of the initial process of it. And I'm just saying this from personal experience. You know, it took me 13 months to get my first 1,000 followers, 18 months to make my first $1. And if I could go back, I wouldn't change a bloody thing, because if I didn't suffer then, no one would really care now. It's not that impressive when someone builds a brand and makes it look easy. So I always try to remind myself that hard is good. Hard is good because you are deserving it, and hard is good because most people are going to quit. But one of the traps of success is believing that suffering equals more progress, okay? The point isn't to make it as hard as possible, it's to work hard and make it simple. And this leads me to Charlie Munger's other idea, which is fantastic, that I often suck at, is the fundamental algorithm of life: repeat what works. So a quick story on this one. I recently, at the start of the year, had a newsletter win where I had 1,000 subscribers come in with something that I had built. And then throughout the year, my newsletter growth was stalled, and I was like, I'll solve that problem at one point. And then I remembered I started reading Charlie Munger again, and I was like, repeat what works. Okay, I'd come up with something that worked out really well, and then I didn't do it again. And the problem with doing that is that often you come up with an idea that goes from 0 to 1, and that's the hardest part. Like, it's actually worked, you've thought of something and you've executed it. All you have to do is create like a standard operating procedure, a series of steps, and then do it again and improve it a little bit. And what you'll find is that by repeating what works, it's like gliding through success instead of trying to push a boulder uphill all of the time. The way you achieve success is through iteration, not repetition. And iteration is about improving each time that you do something. It's about error correction. And so what you want to do is you think, what went well, what didn't, and what can I improve for the next round? And if you keep repeating that, okay, so slowly removing the crap, doubling down on the stuff that was effective, you're going to find you're going to go so far ahead of other people. And the cool bit of using this with writing is that you really begin to carve out something that you love. Because let's say you write a post, it goes well, and by well, there's two different things we're looking out for, by the way. The external metrics are great, we've got some good responses from audiences, but the internal metric is the most important. Is like, how did I feel when I wrote that? Because every time you write something that makes you feel alive, do it again, please. Even if the audience doesn't respond that well, I promise you how you feel seeps through into the page. And if you keep repeating what works, i.e. what makes you feel alive when you write, you will attract an audience that feels the same. You just have to put in enough reps so that they can find you. And so you post this post, it goes well, and then all you have to ask is, okay, great. That was because it was a topic, let's say curiosity. As you can tell, I love this topic. What are 10 other things I could say about curiosity? The mistakes around it, the steps to finding it, how I found my own curiosity, all of these things. And you keep following that thread, you keep pulling on it, you repeat what works, and now you are just following the signals to your version of success. And this leads me to the 7th point, and this is the point that I'm most fond of with Charlie Munger. In fact, I'm so fond of it that it is the banner on every single one of my social media profiles. It's the thing that when I read, I was like, that is what sings to my soul. And he said, the best thing a human being can do is help another human being know more. So this is one reason, and one of the major reasons that I quit dentistry, because I love to teach. I think teaching is God's greatest gift. It's such a noble profession to share your knowledge. I didn't want to teach in a topic that I'm not passionate about. Even at uni, I taught my friends, how to write their essays, how to do their interviews, but I was like, God, I don't want to talk about teeth for the rest of my life. And so I decided to quit, to go find something else that I might be better at, even if it means taking 10 steps backwards, so long as I can build up the expertise and teach it there. But what I didn't know was that the internet rewards the teachers most, because all the internet is an exchange of information. And if you fall in love with helping other people with the stuff that's inside your head, life will reward you for it. Now, you might call me a bit of a softie for this, but I've always been really motivated by deeper meaning, pursuing a purpose. And to me, teaching is that, because it creates a ripple effect of impact, okay? You might post online and it helps 5 people, but when those 5 people feel better, they're going to go on and spread their impact to the people around them, their family, their friends, whatever they're doing for their work. And so you create this incredible ripple effect of impact the more that you share your ideas. And the cool bit with this is that online, the incentive to share your knowledge is so goddamn high. You get reputation, you get relationships, you get revenue. And so there's a really cool feedback loop where you're like, oh, all I have to do is interesting things, live an interesting life, find the interesting lessons, and keep helping other people know more. And so Munger said, take a simple idea seriously. Well, take your ideas seriously. Be generous with them, okay? The way I like to think of it is selfishly solve your own problems and then selfishly share how. And just have faith that the more ideas you put out there, the more luck you are beginning to create. It's almost like a floodgate, okay? Like a like building up pressure behind the dam. Eventually the crack's there and then it bursts open, and it's all based on your willingness to be open with what you know. I hope you found these ideas great. Charlie Munger has plenty more. I've also got a ton of videos for you to help you sharing your ideas online. You might like this one, which is where I share 7 reasons why you must be writing online right now. Cheers for watching.